Um, I am from Twin Falls Middle School, and I'm going to be asking you some questions about your profession. What is your name and your profession?
My name is Denise Stone. I am a special agent with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Office of Inspector General, Investigations.
What do you like most about your job?
As a federal law enforcement officer, what I like most about my job is that through my employment, I have an ability to do good for society.
Why did you choose this profession?
That's actually a pretty funny story. I didn't originally choose to go into law enforcement when I was in college. I originally was going to be a school teacher, but when I was going through the classes at the college, I realized that students didn't always follow rules and regulations. And it was rather difficult for me to accept that because I saw these kids not abiding by the rules and regulations, and I decided that being a school teacher wasn't going to be the job for me. Subsequently, I explored other options, and one of those was in law enforcement, not in terms of being a uniformed officer, but in terms of being a federal law enforcement officer. And as such, I continued with my training, and I have for the last 28 years I've been a special agent.
Did you have to go to a special college or go to special training to become a
A special agent?
special agent?
Yes. Now, one of the first requirements of being a federal law enforcement officer is that you obtain a 4-year university degree, which is called a Bachelor of Arts or some form of formal training at the university level. After I attended college and received my Bachelor of Arts in different arenas, I then went through the Federal Law Enforcement Training Academy in Glencoe, Georgia. And the training at the Federal Law Enforcement Center is a very intense, specific training where it specializes in law enforcement, the different techniques, the rules, the laws, a host of different trainings. And that was a requirement as well.
What kind of work do you do in a day?
In a typical day, well, an assortment of work. A typical day could be that I am sitting at a desk and typing up reports and answering phones and doing, paperwork, as they say. But other typical days could be out in the field, as they say, doing a wide variety of undercover work. Many times we are conducting surveillance, many times we're, pardon me?
Do you ever go shoot your guns or anything?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, another typical day might be the execution of search warrants or going into dangerous settings. And in that regard, one of the qualifications is that I need to be a sharpshooter at least with a gun. I carry my agency-issued weapon, and as such, on a very regular, routine basis, we have to go out to the firing range and practice. So I might spend a whole day just shooting guns at targets at different ranges. In fact, there are many occasions when we go to special training where I have to be able to, believe it or not, here I am, an old lady, so you might think, I have to be able to lay on the ground on my back and be able to shoot over my head backwards at targets and be proficient at that. We also practice shooting one-handed. We have to shoot shotguns, and now we're going into the semi-automatic submachine guns as to carry it. And so those are all, for me particularly, those are a bit of a challenge because they're the new technologies, they're bigger guns with more capacities and so forth, but that's all part of the work. But as a law enforcement officer, that's not the primary thing that we do. I just want you to. But we have to be proficient in the use of are agency issued weapons, so that in the event that we were ever have to utilize them in the performance of duties, that we would know how to do that.
What do you like the most about your job?
What do I like the most about my job? That the work that I do is diverse.
Changes all the time.
It changes all the time. Sometimes in the types of cases that I work, complex white collar fraud cases. I analyze bank records. I analyze business records. I interview people. And I have to obtain whether or not the information that they're providing to me is truthful. And you do that by corroborating, interviewing other things. So in a nutshell, what I love to do is when I am investigating and an assortment of information is coming in, I have to analyze that all and make sense of what the information is that has been presented to me.
What do you like least about your job?
What do I like least about my job? I would have to say when people lie, when circumstances present themselves where it's obvious that something has happened, and when people lie, and it's a little bit frustrating, and it just is. Sometimes it just prolongs the adjudication of the matter at hand because extra work is involved. So I suppose in a nutshell, it's that the cases go on and on and on because you have to take those extra steps in order to prove the case.
What are 2 reasons someone should go into your profession?
What are 2 reasons somebody should go into my profession? Number 1, it's a very fulfilling career. Through the diversity of cases and the experiences that I've had, it's very interesting. It's very rewarding in terms of personal satisfaction, and knowing that through that all, by working hard and just trying to do what is the right thing in terms of analyzing, just doing your work, it ends up being very satisfying. So, number 1, not only is it a widely diversified job in terms of there's always different things going on, lots of different things, meet lots of different people. You're not doing the same mundane thing day after day after day. Another good reason why I would go into the job would be the financial compensation is very good. Yes, I work long hours, long unscheduled hours. Many times I've had to cancel vacations or other things that I had planned because of things that come up. But that's just part of having a job and being responsible and doing what is required of you. But in the end, it's been a very successful financial career in terms of that I've been able to help provide for my family, food, clothing, shelter, etc. like that.
If you were to choose this profession again, would you choose the same one?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm trying to encourage my daughter right now to consider going into law enforcement at the federal level.
What advice would you give a person considering the same job, and why?
And what do you mean by that?
Like, if they wanted to become, like, the same, like, or have the same job as you, what advice would you give them?
And are you asking at the student level?
Yeah.
Well, the first and foremost thing is that I would recommend that you take your studying seriously. The reading, the writing, all of the little assignments that a student might think is just stupid or not necessary, all of those experiences have a reason. And I would recommend that the students take their studies, as you go into high school, take your classes seriously. You can have a good time while you're taking them, but try to apply yourself, because in the end you don't really know what it is that what job you're going to end up being in. And so for law enforcement, not only do you have to be able to read and write, at least in the federal level. I mean, there's different types of law enforcement careers. A law enforcement career, somebody could go in and be a prison guard. Well, in that capacity, being able to read, write, understand, and articulate findings isn't going to be as necessarily as critical as in a position such as myself as a federal law enforcement officer, in terms of when I go out, I have to be able to interview people. And when I interview people, it's not in the sense I'm not sitting down like you are right here and interviewing me, but there's some component to that interview in terms of I need to find out what is going on with the circumstances at hand. And so as such, I have to be able to ask questions, be able to understand what the person is saying, and then later I have to be able to reiterate that in either a written or an oral form later down the road. So that's where when I was saying when you're taking your tasks at hand, being in school and studying, that's where being able to be organized, being able to read, being able to write, and being able to interpret what it was that was said in a logical form so somebody else can understand that.
Well, thank you for your time, and that's about all the questions I have.
Well, but I wanted to say one more thing. Not only should you take your schooling seriously, you want to make sure that you are not involved, or the appearance of being involved, in any illegal activities, such as in high school there's going to be probably drugs, alcohol, smoking. Those things are going to be available to the students if they so choose. I would strongly recommend that you just say no. Don't have any involvement in
Okay.
any of that.
Thank you for your time.
Well, that's